I used to wake up with anxiety every single day until I focused on changing this one thing in my life. If you're someone who struggles with waking up with like this almost overwhelming sensation of impending doom, or you physically cannot get out of bed, and you're trying alternative therapies like going to therapy, you're just not even physically doing anything because your anxiety is taking over, I actually want to share with you how I overcame my own anxiety and then how it led me to work on myself, build the self-development that I needed, have more confidence in myself, and have more trust in myself to get the life I actually entirely dreamed about. I spent a lot of years thinking that anxiety was just who I was. I thought it was just a part of my life. I thought that it was something that had just been given to me. And a lot of my younger years of my life, my parents got divorced when I was really, really young. And my mum, God bless her, she is the biggest trooper in the world, provided such a beautiful life for me and my sister growing up. But she also struggled a lot with her own personal mental health issues. And I just solely believed that that was just kind of like put on to me, you know, what your environment is and where you spend most of your time, especially in your younger years. That's how you kind of develop into being an adult, and that's the patterns and the thought processes that you really go through. And you know, I thought it was just something that I was going to have for the rest of my life. I didn't think it was something that I was going to ever be able to overcome. But you know, the more that I look at it now, and it wasn't something that I wanted to have. Don't get me wrong, like we're all going to go through anxious periods of our life, but I don't believe like we have to live with something just because it's there, right? And I know that like I'm probably speaking about this from a much smaller scale to some people. I know that some people probably have like really, really severe anxiety and that they are getting a lot of help. This is my own personal journey. This is my own personal transformation. And I just want to say this before I dive in, like I'm not speaking to the masses here. I'm just speaking about something that I went through on my own personal level and how I made changes and how that impacted me. And this is very much each to their own, and I'm not dismissing anything else that anyone has ever been through. I used to get that constant feeling, you know, that pounding chest, that knot in the stomach, where I literally just could not make decisions. Honestly, I just couldn't even get out of bed some days. I was so riddled with the way that I felt about my anxiety that I just couldn't even make decisions. I just couldn't do something as simple as get out of bed. I couldn't even sometimes just decide what it is that I wanted to wear in a day because I was just so anxious, and I couldn't even pinpoint why, and I couldn't pinpoint what was actually going on for me. I had a lot of self-doubt. I had a lot of like lack of confidence running through my mind. Like I would constantly ask questions to myself, like what happens if I mess this up? What happens if this doesn't go right? I was constantly thinking in like a negative thought pattern, like what happens when I don't make it to work on time? What happens if there's heaps of traffic? You know, like I used to be anxious about every little single thing, and I got to the point where I was planning my whole life to a T, like what time I would have to go to bed by, what time I'd have to wake up by, what time I'd have to have a shower by, what time I'd have to be finished the gym by. Like everything had a strict routine, and yes, it has paid off in building my business, but in those moments of my life, it did not pay off whatsoever. If anything, it just made me a really horrible person to be around, and like my friends couldn't stand me, my partner couldn't stand me, my family thought like I was going crazy, but no one ever said anything. They kind of just like let me be, which is totally fine because they loved me and they knew that I was okay. But honestly, like I was just constantly like in this mode of like fight or flight 24/7 in every small decision that I was making inside my life. And I couldn't just relax, and I couldn't just enjoy my life and let whatever be. I constantly had to like have a plan for something. I had to know exactly what was going on. Otherwise, I just refused to do it, because if I didn't know and I couldn't project all the outcomes that were going to happen, I was like, I'm not doing this. Like I refuse to be a part of this because I don't know what to expect the outcome's going to be. It's so crazy because when I reflect back on that time of my life now, and like I look back, and even like talking to Nathan about it now, it's like everyone like thought I was okay from the outside. I had a really amazing career. You know, I had finished all my nursing degrees and all my nursing study, and I had a really secure job, and I was thriving at my job. And obviously I met Nathan, and I had a dog, and I had the house. I had all the things, right? So like externally everything looked really good. But then when people would spend like just like 1 hour with me, and God love him, like Nath, he was obviously with me 24/7, he knew that I didn't really have it all together, because the person that I was behind closed doors, without all the external things and people just looking at me externally, like I didn't have it together. And that's probably why when I decided to take a massive step back from my nursing career, my family was so shocked, because to them, I had everything. Like everything was put together. I had the guy, I had the house, had the dog, had the career. Like what was I to be upset about? But what they didn't see, because they didn't spend a lot of time with me and they didn't spend intimate time with me, and same with my friends as well, it's like they didn't see that I was really like a completely different person. I was not the same person who had the exterior. I could barely even like hold a conversation with my friends. I think I've spoken about this before. My beautiful best friends, they came back from Europe after being away for 8 weeks, and I couldn't even have a conversation with them because I was too hyper fixated on all the things that were going on like right in front of me that were so minuscule in that moment. I think it was like literally about the dishes in my house. I was more fixated and anxious about if I didn't do the dishes and it would make me late for work the next day, than actually like saying hey to my friends who had been overseas in Europe for 8 weeks. Like it was just absolutely absurd. It was crazy. I also really struggled to slow down. I used to fill so much of my time with just so many things, right? Like if I wasn't going to the gym, I was doing something with my dog, I was doing something with my partner. Like I was filling my time with work. Like I was doing so much overtime, because I thought that if I started to slow down, then I would feel more of the feelings that was coming up for me, and I wouldn't really know how to control them. But that's the thing about anxiety, is it forces you to do something else to cover up your actual emotions, instead of just looking at your emotions and just dealing with them head on. And like I said, guys, like this is my personal experience. This is my personal story. I'm not saying that what you're doing, if you're watching this, if you're doing something else, is wrong. I'm just sharing, what actually worked for me and what happened for me and how it phased out inside my life. For me, my personal breaking point really came around in the year of 2023, definitely more towards the back end of the year. I went and had like such an incredible experience with some of our really close friends in Byron Bay, and it completely changed like my whole life. Like I was so emotional from about the end of July 2023 till December, and I just was having like a lot of self-doubt just on my life and all the decisions I had basically made. Like, why did I wait so long to start my career and work out that I didn't really like it and I didn't feel fulfilled in it, and I actually felt really depressed from it? Why did it take me so long to, look after myself and prioritize myself so that I could have a really good relationship? Like I started to have all these things creeping up. And then I was about 26, 27 at the time, and I was like, oh my God, is this my life? Like, is this what's happening to me? Is this what I've chosen? And I'm 26. Like, I know if we all look back to our younger years, right? At 26, I thought I was gonna be married with kids, and like my life was looking so much different to that. And I think I just kind of came to the realization that that wasn't the life that I actually thought I wanted, right? I always had this massive fairy tale life when I was a kid, and call me crazy, whatever, fairy tales do exist in my eyes, but I always wanted the big beautiful wedding, the big beautiful house, all the kids, the amazing husband, and I never wanted to work. That was like my dream life. And I think I clutched onto that and I craved that because of my upbringing and what happened with my parents and what happened in my childhood. And I think a lot of that, then I basically had like attachment anxiety. I would attach myself to things and people because I was too scared of losing them, and I was too scared of what would happen if they walked away, or if I walked away, or if something changed. And I think it impacted me massively, but in such a negative light rather than a positive light. I went through, other previous relationships, and I would just clutch onto the person because I didn't want them to leave, even though they were not good people whatsoever. They were not good for me. They were not good people. They were just, it is what it is, right? But I would hang on because I was too scared to let go, because I didn't want to deal with what was going to come up with me if I did let go. As time went on, from like July to December, I really started to feel trapped inside my job. I actually despised going to work. I would go to work, I wouldn't talk to my colleagues. I hated talking like to people, my patients. I was just really not so much like I was really still positive when I went to work. I didn't do anything neglectful, obviously, but I just felt so unfulfilled, and I was so unhappy all the time. Like I was constantly messaging Nathan being like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. Like I want to leave. I was so upset. And then the point for me was when I just decided, like Nathan and I had been talking back and forth, and I was like, yeah, I'm like just going to leave. And like I just left. I went and spoke to my boss, and I was like, I'm just out of here. Like I'm leaving. This is not for me. I need a break. Like I need time away from this. And I did truly think it was just going to be a break. I obviously wasn't exposed to a lot of the entrepreneurial world that I am exposed to now, and I hadn't done a lot of the self-development then that I have done now. And I definitely did think that we were only going to be in Bali for 6 months, and then my life would just go back to being a nurse, NAIT working, all the things. Like, I didn't really think much of it at the time until, you know, the first 6 months went by, and then we went back to Australia, and I was like, this can't be what we're signing up for the rest of our life. And like, don't get me wrong, like, Australia is a great country, but it's just not the place for us. It's not the place that we're meant to be. And that brought back so much anxiety for me. And, you know, being around like different types of people, like here, I love the happiness, I love the freshness, I love how everyone's so supportive. And that's something that I crave as an individual. It's something that I thrive around when I'm around. And it's, you know, something that I know, like my future children, I want them to be around. I don't want there to be negativity. And I think, you know, as someone who was a nurse for 7 years and was around so much negativity and so much death and so much, darkness in life. And then the way that, you know, my parents fell apart and my upbringing, what I was surrounded by, all I want to be is positive. All I want to be around is positivity. And I also think that's what contributed to me becoming such an anxious person all the time. But it's also a good thing because it allowed me to really step into myself and break through the challenges that I needed to overcome in order to become the woman that I am today. The biggest breakthrough for me was when I realized that my anxiety wasn't driven from being a nurse. It wasn't driven from, you know, my circumstances. It wasn't driven from my relationship. It wasn't driven from anything of that. It was actually driven by the beliefs and the stories that I was telling myself. And that, you know, like I always say, like, your environment is everything, and what you're surrounded by is what will shape you. And it was basically just everything that had been installed to me about a belief, and whether it's a story that I was once told or stories that I told myself, that's where the core of my anxiety was from. It was coming from within, and it's something that I needed to break and that I needed to overcome in order for me to be able to move forward in any area of my life. Like, I couldn't stay stuck in that place of my life because it was debilitating me. It was going to end my relationship. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind. Not that it was something that was spoken about, but over time, you know, you can't just be around people like that. Like, it will shatter other people as well. It will impact them. And once I was able to really understand that it was just from within and that I could change it, I could break it, that I just had to go within, that's when I started working hard on myself. And I spent a relentless 6 to 9 months working so hard on myself. I would, you know, just get everything out of my mind onto paper. There was no prompts, there was no, you know, perfect, pristine way to doing it, just everything out of my mind onto paper. And I would write down, like, why do I think about this way about myself? Why do I think I'm not worthy of this? Why do I think I'm not worthy of that? Why do I think I can't have this? I would just get everything out of my mind onto paper, and I would reverse engineer it. And still to this day, like, I do my affirmations every single morning. I look at my vision board every morning because I know if I'm talking to myself in such a positive way, like, I already have everything that I want. And I tell myself that I'm loved, and I tell myself I'm worthy of love and freedom and a family and all these things, that it's going to come true because I believe it to my core. And then I don't let any of those negative stories come back up in my life, and I don't let myself talk to myself in that negative light, because that's what's going to pull me back into that trap. I think it's so important to do such deep work on yourself all the time. I just don't think that there's days that can go by where you can just constantly always think that you're okay. Of course, will it become less? But I think that, you know, in today's society, it's so important that you work on yourself, because in a world where there is so much negativity and it's just like dog eat dog and no one's supporting no one, you have to stand up for yourself, and you have to do the deep work on yourself, and you have to support yourself, and you have to love yourself, because no one else is going to do it for you. And the only way to allow more people into your life, the people who are going to be closest to you, is if you love yourself first. And I think it's so important that I share this message, because I never want to portray this, you know, incredibly perfect person. I don't even think I do that anyway. But we all have struggles. We've all been somewhere. And if I can shed any light and help any other woman or man on their own journey going through something, then I want to do that. And I think it's really, really important that you always prioritize you, and you're at the utmost importance of your life, no matter what season of life you're in, no matter who's your partner, who's your parents, what's going on. You are the most important person. And if you can look after you first, then you can serve anyone, you can be there for anyone, and you can do anything for anyone else. And That is the whole point in this video, sharing a little bit of insight into who I was and what I went through and how I broke through that and how I overcome that, but also giving an opportunity to open up, my inbox for you. I always want to give people value. I always want to help people wherever I can in any moment of their life. So if something like this really resonated with you and you want to know a bit deeper how I got through this and you want some support with it, just message me on Instagram. All my Instagram is below, and I would be more than happy just to provide you, just an ear to listen to or any extra support. That's exactly what I'm here for.